Hello everyone and welcome to Meta Monday Analysis here on SkaredCast. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and this is my every Monday show that I normally do for Patreons. It's one of the 2 exclusive videos, plus all the extra stuff I do on Patreon for all the amazing denizens, without whom I could do nothing of this. So if you'd like to support the channel, the Patreon link is down below. Every once in a while, I open the vaults and I do a Meta Monday analysis or a list crunch for everyone. And today's one of those days. If you're watching this, you're on YouTube, you're on Patreon, you're on the Discord, it is available for everyone. And this is the time where I break down the meta for you, just in general, the stats and breakdowns and faction versus faction and a variety of different things. We take a look at the game of Warhammer 40,000 and how it's what's going on with that. Huge shout out to Jeremy or Curie, who compiles all this information and then shares it with me so that I can analyze it, break it down, and share it with all of you at home. And then, of course, it is Monday questions, so I go over Patreon questions that are submitted, and I get to answer them. We have a few of those in the bank, ready to rock and roll. But stay tuned. I mean, sit down, relax, enjoy, and of course, if you have any questions, the chat is live and is going on. So, I am looking forward to hanging out with all of you. Sharonan, thank you so much. It is definitely Skari o'clock, and I am Skari, and we're just about to bounce in to things that mattered to me in the day and all that good stuff and whatnot, I guess, which is really snazzy. So let's dive in, shall we? So, this is, hey Ivan, what's going on? It's Skari. That's me. I'm in the new studio. I'm in the void. I set up my green screen, which is exciting. I still have to light it up a little bit better. But essentially, I'm in the black void. Ooh, colors, says Nicholas. Yes. So, this is the faction versus faction win rate percentages for the current game, which is based on the 6th of June, that is today. Now, here we have essentially every week we get this information. It shows, on average, the win rates and win percentages of each faction when they are facing each other faction. Now, all this information has been compiled. I believe this is the faction v faction since the release of the Imperial Knight Codex and the Chaos Knight Codex. Let me just double check what sort of I'm not exactly sure what size of events Jeremy takes into account, or Curie on the Discord. But this is, so this is faction versus faction since Knights came out. Now, this is probably, hey Sindri, what's going on? This is probably my favorite chart because, first of all, it's color-coded, and it's very easy for me to sort of figure out and kind of see what's going on, which is really good for me, and I like seeing all of these really cool colors and that sort of thing. But then I can kind of look at what the average is in terms of my faction versus other factions, and then kind of gauge it to what my personal experience is, right? And how I feel I do against certain factions, right? And I highly recommend you do. So, we've got over here, we've got, all the factions, and then along the top, we've got, pointing. So along the top over here, we have all the factions, and then down here along this side here, we have all the factions as well. And then you can crisscross it, which is kind of neat. So if we look at, for example, I don't know, let's look at Dark Eldar, because I'm Skari and Drukhari is the name of the game when I'm talking about it. So if we look at it, we've got 70% win rate on average against Sisters of Battle. On average, I tend to win into Sisters, so that makes sense, at least for me. Custodes, 57% win rate. Yeah, sure, it can be tough to kill Custodes. Into Eldari, mixed Eldari, Drukhari have a good win rate right now. It's about 50-50 in Dastro with the Charm. I've never really understood that specifically, but sure. I feel like I would win that more times than not. Azuriani, so that's Craft World. right? It's a 46% win rate for Drukhari, right? So a little bit of a lower end thing there. Into most of the Space Marines, Dark Eldar tend to do well. So Black Templars, Chaos, Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Demons even. Into Mechanicum, we apparently just win every time, or we have since the release of Knights. 67% into Ultramarines, or 50% of White Scars, because they're a little bit more killy and can do more of the combat stuff. But then you have some of the interesting ones, the ones that are like orange, right? So Deathwatch gives us a hard time. I could see that. They've got some cool tricks that kill Drukhari. Harlequins, we have a 23% win rate as Drukhari into Harlequins. We've got Imperium, just mixed Imperium, 33% win rate. We have a 13% win rate into Chaos Knights. I can see that. Chaos Knights are mean, and they do leadership shenanigans, and that's really annoying. Like having to charge something and then have like your charge halved because of the mechanics of the Chaos Knight Codex is really annoying. We have a 39% win rate into Tyranids, so we tend to lose that match, which makes sense. It's kind of cool. Genius Occult, until Knights were released, we actually lose into Genius Occult more often than not. So, looks similar to the old Allies grid, says Sindri. Yes, that's true. It has like a nice air to it. So I hope you can kind of see it, and if you can go through and maybe, I don't know, zoom in or something. But yeah, this is definitely something that I really like to show off. So find your faction, find out on average since the release of the Knight book, faction by faction, which is really cool. Okay, so let's dive into the win rates. So these are the win rates of this week specifically, the 6th of June, like this weekend. And over here we have the specific win rates of every faction and like the games that they played. Now it's a little different than the traditional one that you see on Reddit, and I'm pretty sure it's because the Reddit one takes into account some of the smaller events. They're like just a few, like less than 30 people, like 20-some people. I'm not sure what Curie runs his rates out of, but they're very, very similar. So they might not be exactly the same, so please don't send me a million messages telling me why everything's different, because I literally have just told you why things are different right now. However, I've asked Jeremy not to split it by win rate percentage, but more by the amount of players, because I feel like the more players there are, the more games get played with the faction, the more accurate representation of the win rate. So it's essentially what I like to look at is more, how accurate is the win rate based on that. Because if you have like one person playing, or like if you're looking at Eldari, like mixed Eldari, there were 2 people playing mixed Eldari this weekend, and they had a 75% win rate, right? That's fantastic. However, that is 2 people playing on a weekend full of events. So maybe they were 2 very, very good players, but that's not really like an accurate representation, or like I feel a more accurate representation is someone like I don't know, Grey Knights, or Adeptus Sororitas, who have a decent amount of players, and they have a 43 and a 46% win rate over the course of the weekend, which gives you like a better understanding of, hey, they had a decent number of pool of players, so that win rate is more accurately representative of what the faction can do when there's more people playing it, and you're bound to run into them more frequently. But of course, if you disagree with me, please let me know. Let me know in the chat why I'm wrong. But, changed my mind, as that meme says. But hello, everybody who's watching. Thanks for coming to hang out. Let's dive into this. So, first and foremost, the most represented faction this weekend was Tyranids. They are everywhere, okay? They have a 68% win rate. That is very, very strong. They represent the 12% of the meta right now. Lots of games. They average about 80 points per game, but they force their opponent down to 61 points per game. That's a huge difference. That's like, 18 point like differential. So it means that not only are they winning, they're stopping their opponents from winning. So it's like a double whammy. So Tyranids are still top dogs right now. And it's just, hopefully we see some sort of like change in terms of how this works. Hey, Greenblood Crusade, how's it going? Thanks for coming to say hello. I appreciate the shout out. Right, then you have Azuriani. So Azuriani, you've got 46 players, so they're the second, like, Craftworld Eldar. This is specifically Craftworld Eldar. They're the second most represented faction of the game. They're 10% of the player base right now this weekend. They have a 58% win rate. That's still 60% win rate. They are well represented. They have lots of games. That is definitely those two factions. Tyranids and Craftworlds have incredible win rates, and I think they're the ones that skew this whole meta. Because once you kind of like leave that and go down to like from Tau all the way down, like other than, Harlequins that have a 62% win rate, right? But they're not nearly as many in the meta. There's only like 13 Harlequin players, but there's 4 times as many Craftworld players, right? Like, you might see some Harlequins sprinkled into some other Drukhari or other lists, right? But, there's not as many players, right? So you're less likely to run into them. Even though their win rate is good, so you're probably going to run into them as you're winning, right? Which, is a whole other thing. So you can take all this information and kind of like adapt it and as you see fit. Tau are the third highest sort of like grossing number of players. They have, they're in a winning rate. They're 55% win rate. Custodes and Imperial Knights. Like, I was surprised to see Imperial Knights. If I'm right, Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, where is it? Chaos Knights have 16 players this weekend, Imperial Knights 25. So there's like double the amount of Imperial Knight players in the meta right now. And I think that's incredibly interesting. I wonder why. I feel like Chaos Knights are like better than Imperial Knights in a way. Like, if you look at, I think they've got more tricks, but that might just be me. It might just be me being silly. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Very glad you're here, Greenblood. Thank you. Nicholas says, I think that'd be mixed Eldari. So just 2 souped in. I don't know how that's accounted for. So mixed Eldari is just Eldari. That's mixed. So either Drukhari, well, technically not Drukhari and Harlequins anymore, but mixed Eldari would be like, I don't know, mixed. ITC faction rankings are a little weird now that they've sort of changed a lot of the faction stuff. So let's just say traditionally Eldari is mixed. Azuriani is Craftworld. That's their Craftworld keyword technically. It was Azuriani. So, yeah. Then we've got, like, Sisters of Battle well represented, Grey Knights well represented, Orcs have a decent representation in the meta. It's the same as, like, Thousand Suns, Chaos Knights, Death Guard, all in the double digits, Harlequins, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Astra, Chaos Space Marines. Drukhari only had 7 players, right? They only account right now for 1.6% of all the players this weekend. Less than 2% of the meta will be your Drukhari, which is a far call from when they were like 10% of the meta, right? Back in the day, when they just ruffle stomped over everyone. And they are sitting at a 47% win rate, which is very healthy. I feel I'm super happy as a Dark Eldar player to finally see the Drukhari like get into a position that makes me very comfortable and very happy to play the faction. I feel like it's got lots of kick to it. It has lots of builds, and I hope that with the the new releases, the new season coming out, and potentially like the new point updates and all this stuff, I hope it's tweaked enough that it kind of brings the semblance of balance to the force. Jack Kwan says, Imperial Knights have better defense than Chaos Knights with the -1 damage on the armatures and the multiple sources of a 4+ invulnerable save. Fair enough. Chaos Knights just overkill what they were already killing. That is true. Like, that's an interesting way of looking at it, Jack. Because I feel that there are ways that Chaos Knights just have a little bit more jank, right? I feel like Imperial Knights are very straightforward. They, like, go in, they do damage, they kill things. They're durable, sure, they can get their durability buffs up, especially with the reducing damage on the armigers when they have like their oaths up or their bonds up. They have ways to make bonds like permanent. There's some really cool tricks within list building and how it mechanically works. However, Chaos Knights have like that. The Dread aura, the leadership debuffs, they've got some crazy stratagems, and they're definitely, I feel, have more technical play where it comes to little technical stuff. So I do like that they're different in styles and they're not just like spiky knights. And that is really cool. So I really like that as well. But hopefully we see some cool things. Well, there you have it. This is your meta, like this weekend. Not going to dive too much into it. We know Tyranids are really, really crazy. So right now we're going to go into Q&A. We're going to go into some of the questions that were asked by the Patreons. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate. Where are the questions here? Questions. They should be around here somewhere. Chat. Did I put the poster in here? Where'd it go? I don't know where it went. Because it was supposed to be here. Is that it? No, that's not it. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. I found it. Okay. Pardon me. I'm trying to like make this like whole thing like look a little cooler and stuff like that. So please pardon me if there's some growing pains as we get through this. So of course, every Monday, patrons can ask questions. I go through them live and give you my thoughts. And then every Friday, I do a list crunch where patrons submit an army list and I read through the army list and dissect it and fix it and break it down and give people pointers and stuff like that, which is one of my favorite things to do every Friday. Okay, so Thomas asks, when building a list for Thousand Suns, is Cult of Time a trap? Does Cult of Duplicity offer a stronger option in the current meta for survivability? That's a great question, Thomas. So, I don't think Cult of Time is a trap. I think the survivability of Cult of Time is quite good in the current meta. I definitely know that like 30,000 Sun Terminators with Cult of Time makes it very... It's like a crazy brick that you have to like get rid of. You got your To the Last all set up, although that's rumored to change. We've got like, if you don't kill the whole unit, you can kind of cycle through the Terminator units and like pull it back and add a couple more Terminators with the Cult of Time stratagem, and then like the psychic power, and then the regular strats. Is it a trap? No. However, I feel like Cult of Duplicity, at least in my playstyle, is stronger because I love having the ability to teleport places and make sure that you're coming at your opponent from different angles and that they're never really safe. It forces your opponent to continually zone out the table, and by zone out I mean prevent areas where you can like teleport into easily. Even though it might not be as durable, I think it just gives you more technical and tactical options when you're playing the game specifically to move around and take advantage of openings and things like that your opponent might have wanted to like shore up and gap up, right? Chad says, if Games Workshop keeps up with the day sheets, yeah, we'll get to that question in a second. Patrons can answer questions, LOL. That is true, Sharonin. You can definitely answer questions as well if you'd like. Isaiah Dusk Riper says, what are your thoughts on the new rules of starting with less CP for games? Well, as of now, all we know for certain is there will be less CP to start the game. Games Workshop has not revealed how that is going to work exactly. They said we're going to start with less CP and get more CP more frequently throughout the game. That's kind of how that works. Like they've said that in their post. So what are my thoughts on it? Starting with less CP is going to be very interesting. Like I've been doing like some thoughts, and if you start with less CP and you're paying for all these like pre-game stratagems, it's like, okay, maybe it's going to force me as a player to be a little bit more like focused on like I better be getting the most out of this thing I'm purchasing as I'm building my list. Whereas before you could just be like, I'm going to buy it because I'll probably use it. Now it's like, okay, I better be using it, which then makes the list building part a lot more fun, like a lot more entertaining, a lot more intense, right? Because I don't want to start with 1 CP or 2 CP. I want to have enough command points to use over the course of the game, and I think that's very important as a player. However, I like the idea of having more CP throughout the course of the whole game, because then it comes to like later in the game, and if you've got some, like if you get more access to CP turns 4, turns 5, strats or the ability to use stratagems that you wouldn't normally because you say use all your command points in the first 3 turns becomes more available. But that also makes sense as to why they made a lot of the stratagems like 1 CP or 2 CP now. And then some are like really powerful, but they're like 3 or 4 CP. It's like if they're thinking, okay, you're going to have less CP to work with, things like calculated targeting, which is like the Imperial Knight stratagem that costs like 3 or 4 CP, like makes a lot of sense. It's incredibly powerful, but given that you're going to have fewer CP, you might not use it that often, right? Pre-game stratagems and detachments could see more mono battalion play. And that's the thing, detachment-wise, how many detachments are you willing to buy, right, for your army? Like when building a list in a Strike Force mission, you can have up to 3 detachments, but is it worth having, a battalion and then like a vanguard or like 2 vanguards, or a vanguard and an outrider or a spearhead? Like how many CP are you willing to spend to get exactly the 6 elites that you needed or whatever, right? So are they trying to push us towards that sort of like battalion play? Time will tell. I personally have always sort of built it around the patrols or like a real space raid when I'm playing my Drukhari. And when I'm playing my Black Templars, I strike keep it to a battalion. But that's also because I'm a Grognar that has been playing since 3rd edition Warhammer 40,000, where there was a single thing called a force organization slot, which is like what a battalion is, except the minimum requirement was 1 HQ, 2 troops, and then you could have 3 elite fast attack, 1 more HQ, 3 heavy support. So I guess for me, it's just kind of like going back to the roots, if that makes sense. But for folks that might be jumping in after playing the game for so long, being like, ooh, I can do whatever I want, that restriction, I don't know, might feel a little weird, right? How does that impact Drukhari lists and how you might play if you only have 6 or 7 CP pregame? I think Drukhari are okay with this with the change, namely because I can still take 3 patrols and each patrol is 0 command points. I think that alone, or just taking a battalion detachment or brigade and then making it a real space raid and then fitting it all in and then having like your Alliance of Agony for like extra warlord traits for cheap. I might not be spending all the CP to get all my relics anymore. You know what I mean? Like I might not use a bunch of relics. I might be more picky as to what I use. But I feel like I'll be spending 3, maybe 4 CP per game. I think so. So maybe starting with like 2 or 3, and then from there, I'll have I'll probably have an idea of what I need to use those CP for throughout the course of the game. What armies are the most dependent on CP pre-game currently? I think Space Marines use a lot of pre-game command points. I think Knights have the ability to use a lot of pre-game command points with like extra relics and warlord traits and things on their like Knights to make them more beefy. I think Chaos Knights are the same. They've got a lot of pre-game stuff. But then there's armies that like do really well, like Custodes, who just take Trajan and then they get a CPU regeneration like ability and they get extra CPU when they start. Or if you take like Necron the Silent King, for example, right, who gives you extra command points, that sort of thing as well, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Jack Kwan says demons are the most CP pre-game hungry. Yeah, demons, for example, you've got exalted demons and you've got extra detachments, and I feel chaos in general because you want to take like a demon patrol and a this patrol and you're mixing and matching and things like that. So that's a great point, Jack. You definitely want to be spending command points for that sort of stuff. Ivan says Black Templars are pretty CP hungry. Yeah, Black Templars have a lot of pre-game CP stuff, right? Like, and I find myself playing my 2,000 point Black Templar army with I start the game with like 4 or 5 CP, starting with 12. So I'm spending like 7 or 8 pre-game command points. And that's not on, and that's with one detachment, because I'm running like extra warlord traits, extra relics. I'm running Leviathan or whatever, maybe a relic tank of some sort. I'm running a Champion of the Feast and a Master Crafted this, and put an extra thing on another dude over here, and double warlord trait on my warlord, and all this stuff. So I end up spending a lot of command points. So that's I guess taking that like Master Apothecary, Master Chaplain with like Wise Orator or, Selfless Healer might not be like the go-to every time now, right? Like, what do you think? Do you think it will change? Like, do you think you just spend it and start with 0 just to make sure your list starts with what you think is good? Or would you like really take a closer look and go, what would I really need, and what do I need to absolutely spend things on, and then start the game with 4 CP or whatever, depending on how that works. Does that make Labyrinth, and by Labyrinth I mean Labyrinthine Cunning, which is a warlord trait for Blackheart, Cabal of the Blackheart, a better choice over Hatred or Ancient? It makes it a very appealing choice, mainly for the fact that you get that CP regeneration. It also makes something like Vect, right? The stratagem Vect, to make a stratagem like cost an extra CP even more powerful, because you could like really hamper someone's use of a stratagem based on the fact that you start with less, and they might have a plan for the strats as they go along, and things like that. However, I do think Hatred or Ancient is still stronger. Now, I've been using the coteries of the Homunculus Army of Renown, and one of the warlord traits on there is a 5+ regeneration when your opponent uses command points. And I have found that to be incredibly useful. And I'm probably going to use it all the time in almost every list with the coterie of the Homunculus. Will it make me take an Archon that has it in say a real space raid? I don't know. Time will tell. Right now, I've been having a lot of fun with the coterie of the Homunculi, so we'll kind of see with that as well, which will be very... you can also Corsairs for CP regen, says Nicholas. Yeah, you can add in like that little Corsair Void Guard with not the Void Guard, the Void... whatever, the elite ones with the little dude with the CP regen psychic power, right? You can always do that as well. Not in the coteries, but yes, in like a real space raid or something, 100%. But thank you, Izan, for the questions. I really appreciate it. Okay, Chucky says, what are your thoughts on Dark Angels? They're traitorous scum. That's an old joke, okay? You have to make that joke when you talk about Dark Angels. I like Dark Angels are Space Marines, right? They've got some flavor. I feel like they can be very strong. They tend to not lose by much. They can score lots of points. And they're just Space Marines. They're just another flavor of Space Marines, right? I've seen them at the top of some GTs. And I'm working on a list of Deathwing and Greenwing, but I can't seem to find a good balance. Well, that's interesting, because Deathwing are very strong. Tough Terminators in big blocks, and I think that's very useful. And then Greenwing has a lot of the utilitarian stuff. And by Greenwing, for anybody who doesn't know Dark Angels, it's like your regular Space Marine stuff that's not Terminators or bikes, because Terminators in a Dark Angels army are the Deathwing, and then all the bikes and Landspeeders are the Ravenwing. Ravenwing? Yes. Ravenwing? Is it Ravenwing? What are the other ones? Raven Guard. Yeah, Raven Wing, right? I can always get them mixed up. Shironin says, the lion is watching you, Templar. Of course. There's a beef between the Black Templars and the Dark Angels, for sure. Gaming Co-op High says, skip if already asked, just tuning in. Going to the Grinning Demon. That's the GT this weekend. I cannot make it this weekend. We've just been in the middle of moving to the new studio. And I've had a lot of fun moving everything in. I'm really excited because I got my green screen in like the perfect location. I got my paint studio, my paint thing over here and everything. But battle reports to follow, all the Tacticas, live streams, everything that you have come to know and love. But that does mean I can't go to the GT this weekend, or any of the RTTs that are happening this weekend. Sadly, I can't wait to go to one. I really want to go to one. So, hey Jason, how are you? Thanks for coming by to say hello. But in order, like Chucky, for Greenwing, in terms of balance, I think I'd go for like a 60-40. I'd go 60 of like 60% of points and units of like what you really want the meat and potatoes and core of the list to be, and then about 40% being like the technical add-ons that you want, like I don't know, a Hellblaster unit or Plasma Inceptors or whatever. The biggest thing here, though, is you kind of have to look at mixing those detachments. And if the rumors or the way that the command points things change and is true, like, of course, that's all speculation. We don't know how it works. You might want to look at not running a million different detachments, right? So would you just do one or the other, right? Or would you kind of mix in something that you could take, or would it be a battalion at that point, instead of like a Vanguard or an Outrider, right? And that's that's key in terms of like the balance. I'm looking forward to our coaching call though, Chucky, because you did say you're writing a list, and we've got that list to go over. So we'll be going over that tomorrow during our call, and kind of breaking it down and looking more in depth into the development of that list. But thanks to everybody in the chat. We'll get to all of your questions as well, since we did open the vaults today, which is really cool. Okay, Isaac says, hey, Skari. Hi, Isaac. Thanks for your question. How do you feel about Drukhari troops? Lately, I only bring Rex and a squad of Troopborn. I love how the tone of that question is like, I just take Rex. And to be honest, in my latest list, I only take Rax as well. 110 of them, to be exact. Rax are fantastic. They're really, really good. They're the best troop choice. It's hard to look at Cabalite Warriors and want to take them. Like, Trueborn are good, but they die just as fast as regular Cabalite Warriors in the Dark Eldar army. So that's the thing. It's like, I take one squad of witches because I need to. Usually 5 witches, because it just has to happen in order for me to take a Cult of Strife patrol or a witch cult patrol. Especially if it's Cult of Strife, you need to take a witch cult troop. So it's a 5 squad of witches. And if I'm using a battalion and I'm turning it into a real space rage, so you have to have real space rage, so you have to have Coven, you have to have Cabal, you have to have witch cult, right? So you've got all of those, and you need 5 witches, right? So technically, most of my armies has the points for 5 witches, and then I'll either go for a unit of Trueborn or 5 Cabalite Warriors, because that's like the bare minimum, and then I'll take 10 Hemoxites, because Hemoxites are incredible, the upgraded version of Rax, and then I'll just take as many other Rax as I can. In a regular army, I'm taking lots of units of 5 Rax. In my big coteries of the Homunculi list, which if you folks haven't watched the tournament report I did, make sure you watch it. It was really fun. I'm running 5 squads of 20, or something like that, which has been super, super fun. Okay, so with that, let's dive into that's the charge, that's this, the capture, the poster. And then I can take this away. Ta-da! Well, that's Meta Monday. Now I'm just going to go into some of the questions in chat, and then we'll call it a day. A reminder for everybody, you put a question in chat right now. This is normally something I do for Patreons only. So thank you so much to all the Patreon support. The link is in the description. If you like to support what I do, that's the best way to do it, is by being a Denizen community member and joining the Discord and all the cool extra perks and the community that we're building and all that stuff. So thank you so much. Let's dive into some of these questions in the chat, which is pretty neat. This is actually really cool. I love that I put the chat on here. Why don't we make it a little bigger so folks can see what we're doing, and then we can probably just make this a little smaller. There we go. Look at that. It's like instantly professional looking. Pa-pow. I'm so proud of myself when I do technology stuff like this, because why not? Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, let's dive in here. So, if Games Workshop, Chad says, if Games Workshop keeps up with the data sheet, slates, and points updates, I'd say the game as a whole is looking to be a decent place. I agree. The starting with less CP, says Chad, may hurt some of the factions that like to load up on extra traits, relics, like Death Guard. Yep, definitely. That's not really a question. Where are the questions? Let's see. Questions. Ian Colbeck says, good day. Dark King got a tournament this weekend, 6 games, 2 says 100 players. Check out Terracon, grab a list for BCP and review it. Oh, you want me to review your list? I would definitely do that if I had time, for sure. Boomstick ATX says they need to undo some nerfs, LOL. To be honest, that would be a great experiment. I think that, like, taking the sort of like nerfed version of like the codexes, taking away all the nerfs and being like, you know what, let's do this and let's just play with like I would like to see what the meta would look like. Like non-nerf Tyranids, Tau, non-nerf Drukhari, Admech, Orcs, right? And just put them in the mixer and just go, see what happens. And I think that would be really fun, to be honest. They need to... So I agree. Oh, that was this one over here. Steven says, do you think factions like Death Guard will get hurt more, seeing as they rely on command points for extra traits and relics, also usually pay for contemptors in most competitive lists? Had to rephrase it. Yeah, so relic tanks cost an additional CP, right? So you'd have to take that into account. Extra relics, extra warlord traits, maybe an extra detachment or whatnot. I don't know. I feel like they have some good stratagems that are very cheap, right? And it kind of like their inherent toughness means they don't always rely on stratagems to do damage or stay alive. But like if you're using stratagems to keep like Space Marines alive or some of the stratagems, and then you don't have as many to use, it means as a player you can kind of bait a stratagem out and then like shoot at something else or do things like that. I feel like I want to see what after the changes, whatever they are, happen. I'd give it 3 weeks and then ask me that question again. We'll see how that goes. That's usually how I like to see. It's like, we'll see. Sharonin says, remind me, how many points are unupgraded Drukhari troops? So a Cabalite Warrior is 8 points, a Witch is 12 points, and a Rack is 8 points. Like, why is a Rack 8 points? It, like, by that standard, a Cabalite Warrior should be like 6 points. Rick Freeman says, no question, but I hope you're having a good day and have a good week, Skari. Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. Thank you for dropping by to say hello. Corsair troops, says Nicholas, don't fill the required slot. They can go at Drukhari transports. Are they a consideration? I do like Corsair troops. They're good. They are better than Cabalite Warriors. They auto-wound on 6s. They have shuriken weaponry, which is the hotness right now. So it means they can do some damage and stuff like that, etc., etc. Now that we cut starting CP, how about pick at the table again? How about pick at the table again? I don't know, Cody. Warlord traits, relics at the table. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know. We'll see. It'd be interesting. I kind of like that you have to, like, pick your warlord traits, relics, and stuff in your list building phase. Because if you could pick anything pre-game, like you used to in, like, 7th, 8th edition, it meant that if your book had really good warlord traits and really good relics for every situation, and you were able to pick and choose depending on who you played against, that alone was imbalancing sometimes, because you have like, oh, you have a Death Star? Well, a good thing I can just pick, old grudges. Bye-bye big thing that you brought is just dead now, that sort of thing. So I like the fact that you have to sort of build it into your list, personally. Raptor says, I'm going to have to drop all my Ravagers if they revert the codexes and build more Raiders. I would agree with that. That'd be good. Jonathan Blake says, hey, Skari, what were your hardest matchups with the coteries, and how do you play accordingly? I had a hard time with vehicle-heavy lists like Knights and Death Guard Mech. Yes, Knights was probably my hardest matchup. Well, Harlequins was, but that was me misplaying that. I didn't kill many of the Knights at all. All I'd had to do with the coterie was literally move block and sacrifice like 20 racks every turn. So 20 racks, they would die. 20 racks, they died. 20 racks, I did that for 5 turns. That's literally how I played that game. And then as they got aggressive, that's when I jumped out my Talos. And my Talos like took a turn of shooting. Although it was really funny, I had one Talos on 1 wound in that game, another Talos on a 1 wound, one Talos on 2 wounds. He shot a Helverin at my Talos with 2 wounds, killed it, it blew up, and killed both my other Talos. I was like, buddy. I was really annoying because it was like the last thing he had to shoot too. And then all my Talos. I went from having 3 Talos to 0 Talos because of one explosion. But all I did was just get in the way and mess things up and kind of move block and things like that as well. I think Glasshammer Gaming has been started doing a game a month where they play the day 1 pre-nerf version of all the books against new ones that haven't got nerfs yet. Yeah, I think they did that, like unnerfed stuff. It's a cool way of looking at it. That seems like a fun way to do it. Ian says, having some issues using Thousand Suns into Sisters. Any advice running 20 Terminators, a bunch of rubrics? It depends what type of Sisters list, really. Like, reach out to me. I'll send you a list that's been doing the rounds. That's really good. But I think you need 30 Terminators. I think that's a great place to start, personally. Racks should be 12 points. Racks are not worth 8. They're worth more than 8 points, yes. Ian says, favorite breakfast meal? Mine is pancakes. Well, I do love a good pancake, and I make a mean pancake. Like, my pancakes are like golden brown, delicious, and of course, we live in Canada, so you get real, legit maple syrup. Why is my camera totally off focus right now? Whoa, that was rough. My camera freaked out for a sec. Not enough light in here. But yes, pancakes are definitely a good one for me. That or like a good breakfast waffle. Or huevos rancheros. Or tamales. Actually, a tamal with an atole. It's like a cornbread like thing that's like cooked in like a maize leaf. It's freaking delicious. Ivan says, how do Drukhari play into Thousand Suns? You kill everything around them, and if you need to hit a Terminator unit, you have to rush it and hit it hard. But you have to make sure you have a plan to take 30 mortal wounds in return. Yes, absolutely. Cornbread, I'm in, says Market Corn. Hey, Market Corn, what's going on? Nice to see you. Oh, thank you very much, Colbeck, for the super chat. That really goes a long way to help the channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Just asked you a lot of questions, so here's a super chat, my dude. Reach out to you where? So you can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me a message via email at SkaredCast@gmail.com. And that's probably one of the best ways to get in touch with me. It was really... Sharon says, I was really good at pancakes, which is ironic because I don't really like pancakes. The scout troop always insisted it be me, though. I'm a life scout. So, yeah, pancakes was a staple when we were in Boy Scouts of America Troop 3, Mexico City. Yeah, pancakes was like one of my favorite breakfasts. Is that Mark Whitaker Market Corn? I'm pretty sure that would be Mark Whitaker Market Corn. Shadow Sun says, played in a team tournament this weekend, got to experience Baharoth's big alien brother, the Winged Hive Tyrant. Yes, definitely. Good thing he can't bounce around anymore. Ugh, that Winged Hive Tyrant being able to just bounce around at any point in time, like Baharoth, was annoying. At least they stopped that from happening now, which is good. Green Blood Crusade says, wondering how the World Eaters are going to look. Been waiting for Emperor's Children book, but heartbreaker if not this edition. Yeah, so we'll see. I guess there's a lot of stuff Damián Flores, saludos de México. Saludos, un paisano aquí en Canadá. Un saludo a todos de allá en México, que extraño a la patria. Did Scouts and Cubs and well, maybe a lot damper. Yeah. ACO's coming up. What are you expecting to glean from post-tournament stats? I don't know. We'll see. Team events are the best way to play the game, in my opinion. Still managed to do it with overrun, ran straight back behind some hidden hive guard. That was tough. Oh, yes. Got an 11-9. That's not bad. Bacon. Ooh, bacon. Lots and lots of bacon. Okay, so with that, we're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click that little thumbs button that helps the algorithm. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite breakfast is, because just helps the algorithm. Interact with the video. Like, share, subscribe. And of course, if you'd like to support, this video is brought to you by the Patreon family, the denizens of the Dark City. We're like a group of miscreants and mean doers that are actually really nice. Other than that, the link is in the description. Thanks a lot, everybody, for hanging out. I've been Skari, your grateful host. Signing off until next time. Skari out. Ah, the Dark Kin. Bye, everybody.